like hash and stuff. All right.
It doesn't matter? Okay, good. Actually, there are many ghosts.
No. I don't do ghosts. But bing bong. Yeah, the cultivation and
Rick's about to get aggro and call people in here.
I hope he does. That was hilarious.
They want to do that all day.
I missed it. Wow.
After my couple months, this is going to be the best. Yeah, you know.
Go! Cool. Smoke what you got.
I don't know if the hotel would like that.
I just had to say it. Move forward. Move forward.
Room up front. Room front. We need the microphone. Yeah.
Does anybody have any requests?
Do some beardy man.
Do some what?
Some beardy man. Have you ever heard of beardy man?
No.
Dude, he's like one of the dopest beatboxers alive, dude. Straight out of England. Check him out.
Well, I am not that dude.
You asked for the request.
No, absolutely. I appreciate your input. Just killing time.
Do some dream theater.
I look like more like Wayne Garth or something.
That's from our school.
I love that one.
Yeah, he's just like,
We're from Orlando.
it's very nice.
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 Land of oppression.
Huh?
How old are you guys?
We range. We all range.
No, but 18 to 30 is the range.
We need
Okay.
we need
As young as we wish we were.
How old are you guys?
Oh.
I just turned 46.
No.
You did not.
way.
You're 40 years old?
Okay, I have a theory. Weed keeps people young.
Low lack of stress keeps you young.
Yeah.
Make your life decisions carefully.
Oh.
That guy's something about his time.
Go ahead, this one.
In the office, that's all we ever did. Okay, I'm going to sit down since everybody else wants to stand up and do like this, but this is kind of ridiculous. You guys should be in the grassroots thing, right? You know that, don't you?
We have numbers there.
Oh, right. Oh, well, get those fucking slackers in.
They need to be learning.
And that is it, or I'm going to say exactly. Remember I said about having fun? Here we go.
Everybody kick your shoes off.
That's right. Okay, let's get started. What the heck? I've been asked to conduct a panel on cultivation and extract and concentrate production. And I know nothing about either one of those subjects. And I can't imagine why they asked me to do it. And but there I am. So what I did was I made a few phone calls and I managed to, I got a thought. I said, you know what we need here? We need the winners of the High Times Cannabis Cups. Because they are the experts that know how to do this. So the three guys that you're sitting here are perhaps among the best concentrate makers in the world. I can prove that by introducing you to him. That man in the middle right there, that's my friend and former colleague at High Times Magazine, Kyle Cushman. He is the former cultivation editor of High Times. He has had 20 years experience and is now at growing, cultivating, debating the law, and outrunning the law. And that he is now pioneering a new cultivation technique called veganics. And he's the owner of Karma Consulting. He is the third place winner in the LA 2000 Cup for highest CBD for his strain Harlequin. He is the second place winner of the San Francisco Cup for hybrid 2010 for his Starberry. And he is currently partnering with Buds and Roses in LA. The man on my immediate, that's my man Kyle. Looking out for your needs for 20 years. Daniel Desai, and to my immediate right is the owner operator of Top Shelf Extracts of Denver, Colorado. He won in Denver 2011, second place concentrate. In Denver 2012, first place concentrate. In 2009, in Amsterdam, he won the best new product for his vapor swing. And in 2011, in Denver, he had third place best product for his crucible titanium nail. This guy's not only making the oil, he's making the shit you use to grab the oil with. Full tip. Banff. Banff right there is the owner-operator of Banff Extractions, also a multiple Cannabis Cup winner. In the Los Angeles 2012 Cup, he placed third for his water hash, and has the distinction of being the only time a water hash has placed in the United States. In San Francisco 2012, he placed first place for his solventless extraction, and he too is currently partnered with Buds and Roses in LA. Give it up for Banff. Why are we here? Why are we here? Because concentrates is now a term that started out with hash, but has come to mean so many different things. I am a neophyte, and I've asked these guys to educate me. And they did sort of for a minute, and I just want to point out that extracts today include, you have your hash. You remember hash, good old-fashioned hash, you put it inside a pipe and you smoke it, well, there's hash. But now, we have BHO, which is butane hash oil extraction. We got water hash, or solventless extraction. We got CO2 extraction coming up closely behind. Let's remember the old school dry sieve, right? And it started with full milk, clear dome. How many years ago? How many years ago was full milk?
More than 10.
More than 10 years ago, full milk, clear dome was the first kind of extraction. It was the purest result with no contaminants, no plant materials, and everything else I just said has evolved from there. So, that is pretty much the basic history where we find ourselves now. There is a level of craft to making hash, and sometimes it goes beyond craft to art. And the three men who are sitting on this stage, each one of them, without question, is an artist at what he does. So I'm going to ask them each to begin, say something that they would like to say, because they sure as hell know better about it than I do. All right, take it, Dan.
My name is Daniel, and I'm very lucky to live in Denver, Colorado, because so far I think our state is the one that's furthest along with regulation. I own a company that is it's a MIPS company. It's a manufacturer of infused products. We're legally allowed to make concentrations for edibles and to smoke. And what we kind of focus on is just the high-end, high-grade, connoisseur level extract, and we use BHO to make it because butane generally tends to extract more aromatics, more flavor, more potency than most of the other methods. Again, I'm very lucky to live in Denver, Colorado, because I don't think anywhere else in the world you can really do this legally right now. But just to give you an idea of how regulated it is, in Denver, if you're a dispensary, you absolutely have to grow 70% of all the medicine you give to your patients, and 30% can come from other sources to fill in the gap. And with all the trim that's made from all the stuff that they're growing, they make the extracts they put on the shelf. And what my company does is we're contracted to take their trim, and either they pay us a per gram fee, or they do a split with us, and we wholesale the other half, and then give them back their product. So when we get it, it's weighed to the gram and separated by the strain. We have to input it into our computer. We have to show on each strain how many grams we made from that particular batch. Each one has to be packaged and labeled correctly, entered into the inventory system, and seed to sale, everything you do, it's all on the computer. So hopefully this is how it's going to look for other states when they start implementing regulation.
It's good to remember, this is new technology. These guys are at the cutting edge, and what he's saying is when this goes throughout the country, they're setting the standards that are going to be exported to other states. Kyle?
Yes, sir.
Say something.
Well, I want to compliment Daniel for the work that he's doing, first off. Like Rick said, he really is on the forefront of what's going on, and I respect pioneers. I want to say that my objective has always been legalization, and that's why supporting NORML has always been important to me. Actually, I've always looked more beyond legalization. To me, it's about the normalization of cannabis use. So NORML just always struck a chord with me ever since I was a young teenager. I've always done that by, I started my career as a clandestine grower in upstate New York, and that was quite an experience. I narrowly escaped the jaws of incarceration one time. It's funny, I never knew what I was going to say. I never knew I was going to start talking about it. Nonetheless, hope you find it interesting. But so about 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago, I made the opportunity to move out here to California because they have legalization. And let me just say that how Daniel described the scene in Colorado, which I have no doubt we all know is perfectly truthful and a perfect description. I mean, it sounds so very civilized, and for some reason, as we're all sitting here in California, it doesn't really feel quite as civilized here in California. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into that right now. I just wanted to say, I've always, so I moved out here to California about 8 years ago, and I was so excited that for the first time in my adult life, I was no longer considered a criminal. But I had to make that choice because many people, in fact, maybe 98% of the people, I dare to say, who cultivate out here in California, just scoff at the rules, the regulations, and are not compliant. And I kind of consider myself a 2%er, somebody who I'm just trying to set an example. I mean, I can't do anything. If I'm in jail, I can't do anything. So I try to appreciate the fact that I have the right to cultivate my own medicine, transport it, carry it, make it into hash, do whatever I want with it, basically. I just can't make money off of it. And, a lot of people are fighting to open up so that, we just have rights like it's any other substance, and it's just a part of normal commerce, and I'm all for that. What I've tried to do for the last 8 years since I started Karma Consulting is to teach people how to cultivate their own personal, legal Prop 215 medicine, and teach people to be compliant and keep yourself out of trouble, and that's why I have an ultimate respect for the people on the front lines, whether they get arrested or whether they just spend night and day just trying to change the laws, like our friend Kevin back there. I have an ultimate respect. So it's just my honor to be able to be here to share my personal knowledge with you guys. And I just thank you for asking me to be here.
All right, Babs, you want to tell us about something here?
Yeah. So just like Daniel, I run an extraction business here in California. But I come from a third world country. I've been arrested for smoking weed. I've been abused by cops. And I'm a lucky person to be here today, making extractions and growing as well. And today I work with Buds and Roses, which is a collective here in Los Angeles. We get trim from them and other dispensaries, and we do the same deal as Daniel, 50%. And usually I dispense all my medicine because there's a lot of patients that need. Some people even ask me, why don't you smoke your own stuff? Because I can't afford it. I have a lot of patients that need that. So it's something that's really cool. I really love what I'm doing. I think if anyone here wants to do this, it's most important thing is the love. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you love what you're doing, you can get anything you want.
The bios of these men are literally going to be the history that we're creating in the 21st century, because you know, there's going to be these concentrates are moving across the country. Let me ask you a question. Who here has seen concentrates outside of California? You guys are in Florida, right? Everybody's seen them? Okay, who here has never seen a concentrate? Never seen like oil or anything like that? No? In New Jersey, where I come from, nobody's heard of that. But inside the last month, my local head shop went from having 2 pieces, an oil rig in a display case, to having 3 display cases of oil rigs and a display case of domes and nails. Right? So that means it's coming. And you ain't there, and it's coming far. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask these guys to give a little bit of description about what it is. You do BHO extraction, right?
Yeah, I focus on butane hash oil,
Okay.
100%.
Give me a description of butane hash oil extraction, and also tell me whether or not, tell me about its qualities and its drawbacks as the people who are critics of it.
Well, I'll start off with some of the drawbacks. You know, it is a flammable gas that we're using to extract, and if you don't do that properly, you can kill yourself or your neighbors. So you really cannot do any sort of extraction inside or without some kind of a professional HVAC system in place. Just bottom line. And I don't recommend people try this at home, but people are going to anyway. So in that instance, I say just make sure that you absolutely do it outside. Now, as to the product itself, the reason people use butane is because it's just an incredibly non-polar solvent, meaning it's not going to bond to anything. If it's really cold and it stays a liquid, it can be extremely selective and just take out the good stuff, the THC, the CBDs, the cannabinoids that you want, essential oils that you want, and leave behind stuff like plant wax and you know, any other large contaminants that might be on it. You know, it gets the good stuff, leaves the bad stuff. Now, once you have it extracted, you absolutely have to make sure that you purge it correctly. And that's the biggest problem that people have. It's not a fast process. You have to be very careful with it. You have to make sure it's done in order to get all of it out of there. Now, that being said, I did a panel in Denver, and we had a couple doctors on the panel, and they said, you know, there's no proven like harm to smoking, you know, small amounts of residual hydrocarbons. But then again, this hasn't been around long enough to really prove. I'd say about 10 or 15 years, the hash oil thing has been going strong, and people have been daily dabbing since then. But at the same time, it's just not enough time to really form like what would you say, like a
Consensus.
consensus as to what the long-term effects are. Yeah.
That's fair to say.
Still though, there haven't been any reported problems that I'm aware of. No one's dying of THC overdoses, even though it can get up to like 80 or 90% pure cannabinoids.
Wow.
Yeah. And most bud, like the best I've ever heard of was 25% THC. This stuff is on average 70% or higher.
Bam, you work particularly in solventless extraction, right?
Yeah.
Could you explain what solventless extraction is as opposed to BHO?
The difference is I don't use any solvent. I use water to extract the trichomes,
What's
but with the same consistency as wax.
That's when you get a wax.
Yeah, the type of hash that I make, you can dab as well,
Mm-hmm.
and leaves almost no residue left,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the micron.
Right. You said that you can't afford it. That makes an expensive product.
It's an expensive process. It's a really hard process to make it happen because it starts from growing. So you gotta have the right growers growing the right stuff, trimming the right stuff, and taking care of the trim the right way.
Right.
If it's not trimmed the right way, they don't take care, in 2-3 hours I can't use that trim anymore. It's not going to become the same product.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how fast your window is, 2-3 hours.
No, my window is 1 hour.
Now, why do you go through all that process? Why would you not make a faster process that make better and make more? I mean, I'm actually trying to pluck you in and trying to find your artistic sensibilities.
The process, the thing is, I see water extraction here in the U.S., the way it started, I saw people using it. It wasn't as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a way of not throwing the trim away and getting some extra cash on the side. And like I said, I do it because I love it. I want the best. I want the best quality. I was always looking for the best quality. So I met this guy. His name is Nicotine.
I like it.
He is the best extractor in the world, in my opinion. And he just taught me this tech. And the tech, there's many factors, but when you're trimming your plants and they're really sticky, you want to preserve that oil. So what you do is, when you're trimming, 1 hour later, it's got to be in the freezer. So you preserve that oil. So when I'm running, I'm extracting that oil, and you got oily product with no water
Because
and solvent.
the oil, the THC and the oil and all the cannabinoids don't mix with water.
Yeah. They don't mix it. We just pull out the trichome heads, and then there's another factor, the agitation. Because most people don't really care, so they just agitate with drills or whatever, taking all kinds of plant matters and stuff that you don't want in your hash. So there's a perfect temperature, agitation, everything, so you can only get the trichome heads. That's all you want. That's what Daniel does, but with solvent.
Yeah, I actually want my trim to be as dry as possible. I mean, still fresh, but I want it to be bone dry, like all the moisture out of the actual plant material.
Otherwise,
It helps you get a better separation.
now, you'll be very dangerous too to run it.
I found that, especially down here, I've done a few runs in SoCal too, believe it or not. And some of the stuff that they get down here, it smells amazing, it looks amazing, but you run it and it just comes out looking like just brown baby poo. I mean, it still smells amazing, but
Contaminants.
a lot of
You
wax.
can't, if you don't grow the weed properly and it becomes part of the cellular structure, you can't wash it out with any water or any solvent.
So it starts with the weed.
Of course.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course it starts.
Everything starts with the grower.
I found though that if you get it really dry to the point that you even like dehumidify it, because out here in Colorado it's easy to make high grade stuff because we have no humidity.
But you can't cure your weed though.
Well, yeah, that's true. That is so true. Like, you guys have a much better environment for curing the weed, but now we're curing in chambers where we control the humidity.
Sure, the state sponsored
It's getting
this.
better. We figured it out. But still, the trim has to be really bone dry for me, because if not, the moisture will act as a carrier to extract more chlorophyll and plant wax and damage the final product.
You know what you guys are like? You guys are like a rich kid. You're like the rich kid with all the privileges. I'm jealous.
We're really lucky.
Sell? You're allowed to sell?
We're allowed to make money.
You're allowed to make money? You're allowed to be compensated for all your hard work and time?
And because we're allowed to make money
civilized.
off of it, the price is plummeting on everything.
Good.
Let's talk about
Because,
How about
because
that?
true patients, you know, when I say true patients, I mean there are a lot of people out there who truly need it for all kinds of medical debilitating things, from fibromyalgia to migraine headaches to, you know, things that we've all had at some point, but they suffer from them daily, to people like ourselves up here who don't really have any physical ailment, you know, and you know, that's why we're trying to champion all this, you know, true reform and true legalization, so that we can, you know, not have to meet, you know, once a year, you know, parties every month.
Kyle, I want to ask you a question. Kyle, in addition to being a master grower and hash maker, is also, as I said, the former cultivation editor of High Times Magazine, and spent a good deal of his life analyzing a lot of this culture. Okay, so we got BHO, we got water hash. I'm a novice, right? Tell me the pros and cons of each, and how I can make an informed decision about which I would prefer to smoke.
Well, first I'd like to say that I think for me, you know, everybody's different. For me, hash is kind of like champagne, you know? There's special occasions where you can't just help but order a bottle of champagne, or you have some for when your friends come over. Maybe it's a little, you're gonna, you know, indulge a little bit more often than that, but that's how I kind of look at it. It's not really an everyday thing for me. Maybe it's because I'm old.
I'm old, it's never
You know,
thing for me.
I'm certainly not the guy going, you know, get out of my yard, you know? I don't, but, you know, 10, you know, 15, almost 20 years ago when I started my High Times career, you know, I basically, I remember one day, I came in and now the managing editor, Chris Semag, is that his title?
Yeah, it's
And he's the managing editor now. Well, he was
Editor-in-Chief.
Editor-in-Chief, I'm sorry. And he was my boss, he was my editor. And I remember I'd come in the morning, which for me was noon or 11 o'clock, and he'd be working in his cubicle, and I'd say, hey, you know, I just got there, I dropped my bag, and I'm ready to go out and go get high. And I'd say, you want to come with me? And he'd go, no, you know what, Kyle? He says, I prefer to be like the rest of the world for at least half my day. and that didn't really resonate with me at the time. I don't know if it had anything to do with age, but for me, as I've gotten a little bit older, all types of activities and all types of work don't necessarily mix with getting high for me. Or to that level of high, you know. I mean, I used to smoke 5 joints on every car ride, you know, and you know, and I still smoke on that ride, but I don't smoke 5 joints on that car ride. So I'm getting a little bit off the subject.
Yeah,
So
BHO versus water.
So, BHO, it's kind of like if you're an organic type person or not for me, you know. I'm certainly not a vegan, even though I'm growing veganic now. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I do like to try, most of the products I buy and most of the things I put in my body, more than 50% are organic. So I try to be organic. I consider myself kind of an organic guy. I like to buy organic iced tea, you know, butter and milk and cheese and eggs and all these things that I tend to put in my body almost every day. And so if you're an organic type of person, you would probably fall on the side of water hash, bubble hash,
Expensive.
as they call it. Right, well, it's no less or more expensive than other types of extractions. Am I wrong? I mean, they're all really top shelf is top shelf, regardless of how it's manufactured. You know, and BHO, I've made it myself a number of times, and it's a great product done properly, and I think it is in any estimation that I have in my mind as far as science goes, which I have no training in whatsoever, but everybody's got a scientific mind. In my scientific mind, I think that when it's done properly, that it's probably perfectly safe. It's just a personal choice about whether you know what you want to eat. That's how I see it. The issue about hash, for me, isn't really so much. It's a very specific issue, and if anybody's been following my blogs or stuff like that, they've seen me get into it online, and I guess I am a little bit that guy, get out of my. I'm not really. It's really simple. I'm not stammering on my words. I'm really kind of setting it up. I don't have any children, and I never really particularly thought that I would form any kind of serious opinion based on how it might affect the children of our next generation. And what I've come to in my thinking is, I was raised on cannabis. I raised myself on cannabis from the age of 13, 14, from 13. I smoked through all my teen years, and it certainly had an impact on my perception on the world and on life. And as I stated in my earlier, that I feel very lucky that I ended up in the place that I ended up. But my concern is, and it could be completely unfounded because there's no scientific basis for this whatsoever, so this is just my unsolicited opinion, is I question how a generation of 13 to 16-year-olds, or even, they're younger now, they're probably getting high at 10, I wonder how 10-year-old minds will do growing up on 60, 70, 80% THC products, smoking it daily as I did as a kid. I have to imagine that that's not really going to raise our general IQ in the United States, which is something that I'm worried about. So that's really where it stands, and I really find myself funny that I'm in that position, but I can't help but because I want this to be legalized, and perception is sometimes everything. Perception can be everything. You hold your hand up, and I can't see it, and you move just a millimeter, and I can see everything. And so if the perception is that cannabis is maybe not wholly, but is substantially or primarily abused, then it's definitely going to hold back the legalization. So in my life, where for the last near 15 plus years of my life, I've gotten to come up on a stage and talk to people, I find it's important to bring out that point.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you gel well into where I was going next, which is the responsibility. Our culture has a responsibility to at least have as much good information. If we're going to have, these oils coming in, we need as much good information about what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong about this, because the jury's out on some things, and that leads to responsibility. Our responsibility, I think, is to make sure that we talk to people like yourselves and make sure that we get as much good information out there as we have it.
This is cannabis, and it all starts with the flower, it all starts with the plant, and without getting too hippy-dippy on you all guys, if you smoke cannabis, you're part of a community, and you're even part of a culture. Dare I say, you're part of a culture, and so everything changes, everything gets faster, everything gets hipper, and everything gets square, and but like you said, for me, it's really important that as many of us carry a positive light when we're out there in public. That doesn't mean not to get high in public, because I do, but I'm always engaging, and I'm always friendly, and I try not to act like I'm a criminal, or get any perception like I'm a criminal, because you have to hold your head high, because we are we're representatives of this culture.
Well, the thing that I got about the responsibility, and Banff, I want to address you on this question, is you make the solventless extraction. And that, as I understand it, when I do dabs, and when I do dabs, people tell me the solventless extraction is the best one for you. And what I'd like you to talk about is, you're on a level of at the highest level of your game for solventless extraction. Do you have any concerns about dabbing? Let's slide into dabbing here. Because you said you can dab with your butter.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, do you have any concerns about dabbing with your butter? Meaning, the concerns about dabbing, not your butter.
Well, it's a hard question.
Dabbing is actually more helpful because it's a form of vaporization. So if you're talking on strict terms of how much imparticulate matter or carcinogenic inhalants that you're taking in, then it's definitely safer. I'm just questioning the daily consumption of mass quantities of cannabis.
I understand. What I'm saying is you're doing the solventless, and that's known. So could you address that?
The thing is, the only difference is that I don't use any solvent. But people like Daniel,
Right.
he's got his tech dialed where when I'm going to smoke his concentrates, I'm not going to smoke butane. You know what I mean? And I don't mind that. I really don't. I actually love smoking all kinds of concentrates. And I do purchase different concentrates, even butter, shadow, whatever. It has no butane. If it tastes like the flower, there's no problem dabbing. The thing is, my preference is water hash. I prefer the flavor that the water hash gives you. And you can't deny organic if something is amazing. You know what I mean? It's two different sides of the same cup.
Dan, could you address the concerns?
When I'm making my stuff, just one thing that everybody has to say is it all comes down to the starting material. If you have great starting material, then it'll come out great. If it's horrible starting material, you can't polish a turd. It never happens.
They do shine. Still tastes like shit.
Well, the highest form of what he makes, of course, is what people call solventless wax. And you can dab most of that, although you can't fully dab everything he makes, I'm sure. Because I'm sure you don't get everything ideal, right? It's not all in that 1 hour.
Depends. If I'm running some OG indicas, oh, trust me.
Yeah, but you do dry trim too sometimes, right? No. Never? Never? Wow.
I don't like that.
There's not enough trim in the world.
Yeah, I know. That's why my patients get mad.
But the reason I choose to do what I do is because I believe in harm reduction. I believe when it comes to pain management, there's no better substance on earth. And because of my personal belief and because of all the people and patients I've worked with, I believe that extremely high doses of cannabinoids can actually cure people from other addictions or help them manage their addiction. I can't tell you how many pill poppers I know and alcoholics that have actually been able to stop doing that because they've had access to my concentrates. And that's why I do it. We get higher yields, so we're able to make more. It's a faster process. Like my process will take like 10 hours to 12 hours to get it absolutely perfect, ready to go in the package and on the shelf. Like with water hash, you have to dry it out for 3 days, and you have to do it right, because if you don't, you can actually build a mold, which is definitely, we know that's going to be a problem for new patients. As long as, I feel like at the very end, as long as your product is solventless at that point, before a patient gets it, no matter what you had to use to get there, then you're good. And in order to make stuff get to that level, in my view, it takes about $2,000 of machinery, or you have to do it like 1 gram at a time. So, in order to get it safe enough for a person to smoke, in my opinion.
Yeah. You guys are on the level of experts when we're talking about what is high quality. Let's talk about what is low quality. Something you guys don't do, but you're certainly aware of it. No, because the consumer has to be aware of that. Okay, is there some way for me to tell whether or not I got?
Well, starting with the flower, you know.
I see oil.
Well, basically, but a lot of everything that we're talking about has to be made from the flower,
Right.
and the majority of cannabis is from like shade.
User will never accept that.
Right, but if the THC has been grown with large amounts of chemical residue, heavy metals and things like that, on a molecular level, I don't know. I mean, that's what makes the tastes and all the things different. Is, you know, like you're saying about organic. So it's just starting growing really clean, organic, vegan organic medicine, and having love for the flower and really, you know, respecting the plant in some sense because it does so much for you, and it expects a lot of respect in return. And then you can go and begin debating.
Obey your senses. That's what I say is just listen to your senses. If it smells bad, it's not going to taste good. You know?
Well,
if it looks
unfortunately,
dark, then it's probably
Green.
not as good as something that's nice and light yellow or whitish.
right. But unfortunately, just because it smells good doesn't mean it's going to taste good.
Usually, though, it's a good, I'd say it's a good rule of thumb.
Usually, absolutely, usually.
But I can say honestly, if it smells bad, it'll taste bad.
Absolutely.
Especially flowers, because if it's not properly flushed, because you're talking about organics, but when people are growing with chemicals, if it's not properly flushed, it's going to smell good, it's going to look good, but once you smoke that,
Harsh.
it's going to be the worst smoke
It
ever.
tastes salty.
You know, and even making concentrates from that is not a good idea.
Right, because you're just concentrating the contaminants.
That's the thing, but that was the first thing that ever, I do dabs and everybody talks about what's good and bad about it, and I never really thought too much about it until somebody told me that when you concentrate the THC, when you concentrate those qualities, you're also concentrating anything else such as contaminants, pesticides.
I wonder about that. I don't know about that, but I wonder about that. It's kind of like, you know, I do eat red meat, but I try to eat as lean meat as possible because 98 or 99% of cholesterol is in the fat. The lean is relatively safe. So I'm wondering if it's kind of the same. If you strip away all of the bark, so to speak, the hemp, the fiber, the leaf, the starches, the proteins, and you're left with nothing but the THC, have you actually made it low cholesterol? I don't know because I'm not a scientist.
What would you think, Joe?
I think the flavor is really important, and if you get it extremely pure, I've had it extremely pure, like, you know, upwards of 90%. It doesn't have any flavor anymore. It's just it's purely a medicine at that point.
So are you saying the contaminants add to the flavor?
I'm saying when you get rid of everything that could possibly have even the slightest bad effect on you, you get rid of the flavor too. You throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times.
No kidding. Yeah.
And I really think like the smell and taste are just an essential part of the whole experience, and I believe they have medicinal qualities.
It's like drinking wine with no taste, no flavor.
But so where's the balance? I mean, at what point you can certainly make oil that has no flavor but is absolutely pure. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol is perfect.
Right. Right.
You can do something called winterizing, where you basically freeze it in like 100% alcohol for 24 to 48 hours, and you filter all the wax that precipitates out of it, and then evaporate it, and you get something extremely pure and extremely strong and pretty flavorless.
Very flavorless. Okay, so from a point of view, it's pure, and if there's questions or there's concerns about the purity, why would you? I mean, are you literally putting in the flavor at the risk of health risks?
I don't believe so, but if you leave some of the plant wax in, it can actually be a slight lung irritant, so you might cough more, but you still have the flavor at that point. Is that necessarily something horrible for you, that you just cough a little bit more? I don't think so.
So for me, the coughing was the first thing. Something that makes me cough that much, I just intuitively feel can't be that good for you. Beth, would you have a very high level of what you
guys,
do.
there's data on this, okay?
What's that?
You might ask around if anybody has any data on this. Like, this is not the big mystery.
Right.
Okay, you're a doctor. Who has data on it? Anybody have anything that contributes to what we're
Terpenes are
saying?
the flavor molecules in cannabis, and they also have anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, anti-tumor qualities that seem to support the cannabinoid activity.
Absolutely, but the thing that I think that we're debating, and maybe you can answer this too, is that when you combust these terpenes or when you combust these flavonoids, are they in any way toxic?
No, they're actually helping you out.
Oh, okay. So,
Unless you put toxic materials into the concentration
I
process.
really think the term
That's
is
what we're talking about,
actually
the purity versus the,
It's the difference between someone, if you're talking about contaminants, there's the organic contaminants if you're trying to purify out cannabinoids, but they're not toxic. Then there are the toxic contaminants that come from using pesticides or petrochemical fertilizers.
exactly.
right. And so again, I'm trying to, Ben, would you have a novice like myself, right? When I'm looking at oil, now, what can I look for? What can I perceive in what I'm smoking or about to smoke? That whether or not it has quality to it or whether or not it doesn't. What advice would you give?
for concentrates. If your hash is green, you got plant matter. Meaning the extraction wasn't properly done. You're still going to smoke part of the plant you don't want. So why smoke that concentrate anyway if the guy did it wrong? You know, I think you got to think about the trichome color. What's the color of the trichome? And your concentrate should be that color. If it's dark, if it's green, if it's some weird color, if it smells bad, don't smoke. Don't even try that. You know, that's.
So you have to develop a sensibility, is what you're saying.
You certainly have to smoke it. With looking at a concentrate other than off color or off smell, you're really not going to know if it's purged or.
I like to burn them a little bit sometimes.
Yes.
You know.
What I do with every single batch that we make is I actually have a tie nail set up that I heat at the tie nail and I'll burn it right on the tie nail without even inhaling.
What is a tie nail?
Titanium nail.
Oh, titanium.
Sorry. A titanium nail. Heat it up, burn a little bit of the concentrate on there. If it makes any sound whatsoever, it's making a sound because there's butane left over, and the heat is causing the butane to break down into CO2 and H2O water, and that water mixing with the oil causes it to crackle. So if it makes a sound, you do a test tab, is what they call them. You know it's not finished. Absolutely not finished.
And for water extractions, when you try to burn it a little bit, see if it bubbles. You know, if it burns black, you know that's pure plant matter, even if the color is good. That's something you should be looking for. Your hash should not burn black.
Yeah, here's some questions that might help clarify things for all of us, okay? First question. THC vaporizes at 375 degrees approximately. How hot is a fucking titanium nail with a torch on it?
I can tell you this is about 1,000 degrees. A little bit over 1,000 degrees.
So, answer that paradox first.
I don't know how it's really a paradox. It's just hotter, so everything just vaporizes extremely quick. You're hitting it at that time, goes through the water, cools off, pulls off any other contaminants, and you inhale.
Okay, I maintain that your product might test at 50% THC, but the THC that's entering the person's brain might be very substantially less because of the extreme high heat might strip off.
That does sound like it would be, but contrary, in my experience, it's much higher.
Yeah.
Well,
that's true.
There's also the whole thing about activation, you know?
How can we find the answer?
Let's make it legal for people to research this stuff again.
Okay, another thing. You're talking about terpenes, okay? As Clint knows, and many of you probably know, terpenes is like the entourage effect, okay? This is like something that's been discovered kind of recently, and they're really volatile, they're really fragile. Do you think there's terpenes in your distillates? Can you verify it in a lab? Like if you send it to your local lab, can they say that there's
not in Colorado yet. There's no one that can do the terp profile yet in Colorado. Supposedly out here you can, right?
I'm guessing that there is, though.
I think the workshop does. They do a lot of stuff with
so far, I don't have any.
Because
minus
minus all the terpenes, all the different samples that we've all smoked wouldn't have as much of a difference in profile. Minus all the different terpenes, I would imagine. They would be much more similar in their effect. and their aesthetic qualities. Yes, exactly.
So I mean, frankly, what you have with the concentrate is just like going to a dealer on the street and he says, man, this is the best shit.
Well, it's like the crack of cocaine.
There's no science,
That's what it
there's
is.
nothing to back it up.
Unfortunately,
Scary.
you're right, but I'm comfortable with the fact that I'm able to get rid of the solvent and make it as clean as I possibly can.
Hey, I admire you guys because you're doing it right. You're putting your reputation, you're putting your life on it that you're doing it right. So my hat's off.
Yes, me too. And I want to say, I absolutely agree with Daniel that it is a definite measure of harm reduction. It just is. I don't have any studies that I can quote or anything like that, but I have enough anecdotal experience with thousands of people to know that it works the way he says that it does.
Okay, one final question, I'll quit bugging. Some people have said to me that by using concentrates, they've lowered their cost to get the effect they want.
Yes.
Compare the cost of using flowers versus BHO versus water hash per dose. Do you have any information on that, anecdotal or factual?
It's anecdotal, but the most efficient is BHO because you're able to get. I'd say the average patient could get 30 to 40. A heavy user could get 15 to 20 doses from a gram, and one little dab is equal to the effects of smoking 2 or 3 bowls of weed.
How much does a gram cost?
It ranges in Colorado. I think our prices are a little more compassionate than out here in California. The highest our stuff goes for is 40, but usually it's 25 to 30 per gram.
In New Jersey, you're getting $80 a gram.
Yeah.
If you do the math kind of the way he's saying, which sounds, feasible, it sounds like it's comparable, but in my experience, it doesn't. It really doesn't compare because if you have a regular cannabis, a daily cannabis habit, as opposed to a daily extraction habit, it's going to be 3 to 4 times more expensive for you to maintain that habit.
Which habit?
The extraction, because it has something to do with the fact that when you smoke such high levels of cannabinoids, your tolerance goes up, which is something that I've never ever found with cannabis. I've smoked the same strawberry cough for 12 years, and I do 1 bong toke in the morning, and it affects me the same way as it did 12 years or almost 15 years ago. But yet I see people who started out doing 1 dab a day, 2 dabs a day, 5 dabs a day, yabba dabba do, we're doing 25, 30 dabs a day, and so that's $40 a day in concentrate or more.
Wow.
So,
Dan, I think you disagree with that?
I totally do. I smoke like about 1/8 to 1/4 ounce of weed a day. And most people I know like are around that level. Anywhere where it's legal, that's how it's going to be for most of us.
And I disagree with them both.
That's
what I'm actually there.
I thought I was going to say a question. Do you agree with that? You disagree with
I
that?
think, first of all, every person has a different way, and I'm the same way with both. If I'm smoking flowers, I'm going to smoke 30, 40 grams a day. If I'm smoking concentrates, I'll do the same.
Right.
That's just the way I am. I can't smoke, and I need to smoke a lot.
it is.
I'm the type of person, when I was in college, I smoked 10, 20 joints a day, and I only got straight A's. But if I didn't smoke, I'll be in school thinking about weed instead of
and on this note, I'm going to ask High Times columnist, Dr. Mitch Earlywine, to come in on this subject. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to know, really, I'm just one guy. I'm home, the kids are at school, I've only got 8 hours, I'd like to make a tincture fast. I don't have butane, I don't have $2,000 set up. What would you recommend?
Dry sieve.
Yeah.
Dry sieve. No. I can make an ounce of keef in 5 minutes. All you do is dry your leaf so that it's completely dry, like Daniel was saying. He likes to use completely dry material. as opposed to wet material, you want to be freshly dry though, very freshly dry. So basically, I just take all my trim, and when I'm done with it, I just casually put it in the freezer. And then whenever I feel like it, whenever I've got a special occasion, a party to go to, friends coming into town, I take my bag of leaf out of the freezer, and I have a silk screen stretched across a wooden frame, 125 microns. And I just basically, when I take it out of the fridge, while it's still really cold, I crush it in the bag a couple of times, and I just pour it out over that, and I just jostle it over the screen, and I get a mound of this beautiful beige to yellow keef that sometimes, depending on the strain, completely bubbles, and in 5 minutes I can have a Tupperware container of keef. Smoke of the gods, I call it.
Smoke in the what?
Smoke of the gods.
Oh, I love that.
If I could break out of the actual plan, Mitch, I want to ask you a question on this, because Mitch always comments upon the health aspects of whatever we do, and that's what his function.
Well, that's why he's a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doc. And what do you think about all this as far as what might be the health concerns and?
My concern is dosage and this development of tolerance. So we saw a couple of years back, one of the physicians who's up in Vermont say, actually you don't get tolerance at low doses that you get at high doses. We see it with every other drug too. So is there a higher risk, and I don't believe in cannabis dependence, but is there a higher risk for essentially needing more if you're doing such a high concentration with each hit? And then the whole immediacy, rapid increase in blood THC. So it looks like I don't want to really be like stoned to the bone next to a 1,000-degree titanium nail. It's potentially dangerous. And so
I've seen a couple accidents.
Yeah, but like driving, it makes most people more conscientious.
And that's all I can imagine is that there's harm reduction built in that you guys know that I don't know because I've never done.
Yeah, but driving with a titanium nail, and I've seen that done too.
I know people who do that.
Hey, I'll confess to rolling a joint while I'm driving before, but a titanium nail takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Like China syndrome.
Absolutely.
We're just having fun here, really. It's all about personal choice. I don't want to make anybody feel bad about what they do with cannabis. Really, I don't. I love these guys. These guys are beyond experts in their field, and I feel totally honored to be up here sitting next to them and talking. So it's just we're all friends here,
I got a question right there. What you got?
Yeah, I have a question for I guess all you guys. You guys mentioned yield. I was wondering if the yield was based off of the cannabinoids, like cannabinoidials or the THC.
You can actually test your plant, and that'll be a good indication. You can test the material you start with, and that'll be a good indication of what you're going to get at the end. And like a high CBD strain will have a lot of CBD in the final product. Like if you test a flower at about 20%, you'll get about a 20% return.
See, and I think I'm going to start this. Harold will back me up or expand on it. I think with bubble, when you make bubble hash or water hash, it's a lot more strain specific, and I think it has something to. I know it has something to do with different strains have a different propensity for allowing the trichome to detach from the plant. I don't know why or how that is. They have different oils. They have different, and so some strains make a lot of hash, and some strains make a little hash.
Yeah,
Each
strain has different trichome sizes. Different, they produce more trichome than others, and has more oil in the trichome than others. So
don't some strains more freely give themselves from the matter though? Like when you're done, I've noticed some strains there's just still more matter on the plant. That little bit of agitation you do, and some strains it just like shatters like glass and gives it. It just kind of gives it to you, and then other strains just don't give as much. I see Clint here as a.
Do you have any, using butane, I don't know if there are any broader concerns. I mean, Jack Herrera wrote a whole book about divorcing ourselves from dependence on petrochemicals, and yet I see there's this whole movement of using petrochemical extraction, and it seems a little schizophrenic to me, some of the traditional hippie method, and then we've got this, and what happens when it's vaporized out? Is it a greenhouse gas? What's the effect on the environment?
The effect of the environment, well, We wouldn't use like gasoline for a car to extract our extracts because you'd all agree that that's a much more harmful substance than the regular butane. It's much dirtier. It's about 3 times as dirty per volume as butane is. So we probably do more harm to the environment driving to work than we do actually blasting the butane. What was the first part of your question?
Well, just the idea that, Jack Herrera sort of established an idea that we move away from a dependence on petrochemicals and try and
Ultimately, I'd agree with that.
larger market for the petrochemicals by using them in a sense.
Like I'd say, in like the broadest sense, I completely agree with you. But just because my stance is harm reduction, I want to make a shit ton of this stuff and get it out to everyone who could possibly need it, and make so much of it that it drives the price down, so people can afford it to need it. So that's my whole goal. But I gotta say that I actually do have the distinction of giving Jack Herrera his first and I believe his only dab, and he was not a fan.
Not a fan.
He was not a fan. He was not a fan.
That's interesting. Right there.
A quick question from, it sounds like you're taking the more downline of production, the leaves that were basically going into trash, and you're finding a use for it.
Yeah.
Any value, because the industry's getting to the point, there's some states with more flower being grown. Could you use flower, would you use flower, or is it the leaf works the best and that's why you stick to it?
That's my goal, and that's what I'm really trying to make happen.
You want to take all my flowers, don't you?
Yeah. What's happening right now is they're starting to, they're getting to the point where they're about to flip, but at this point still flowers are worth more as flowers than as concentrates. But in Colorado, you're allowed to grow, if you have another license, an OPC off-premises grow site. If you have one of those licenses, then you're able to grow 500 plants just for your MIPS company. And that's my dream. That's what I want to do. I want 250 plants of OG Kush and 250 plants of some high CBD strain.
I don't doubt Daniel's motives in the least. It just seems to me, from my own personal observation, that this whole movement is just based on convenience. It's kind of like everything else in our culture. If there's a faster, quicker, more efficient way to do it, we're not going to even worry about what the long-term effects are of it. We're just going to go ahead and adopt it because that's the American way, or it's just the way of the human way. And again, I'm not demonizing. I'm just, because I dab too. I just don't, may not do it every day. So,
just coming back to his question, when it comes to water extraction, it's better to use sugar leaves than buds. You get a better yield.
Absolutely. More surface areas exposed.
Yeah, more surface area exposed.
For me,
so that's the difference. He would actually absolutely prefer to use flowers because he's going to get a much higher return, and where with water hash, we would absolutely rather just use the finest, we call it sugar trim, because you've got complete exposed, the trichome is completely exposed, so that you can remove it from the leaf without having to use any harsh solvents or anything like that.
Yes, sir.
Dan, do you recapture the butane?
I actually don't, because my goal is to make the connoisseur grade stuff, and you really can't do that with a machine that recaptures it. I'm afraid it just takes too long to reclaim the butane. Ultimately, if they come up with a better machine, then I'd definitely use it. I think that's moving in the right direction. It does make it a little bit safer, the whole process, and it does save money and save the minimal effects on the environment. But at the same time, the final product is what's most important to me.
Does anybody have any health concerns of the butane on the nail?
No.
Yes.
Yeah? Who does?
I had a patient that supposedly burnt a lung using it.
They burnt their lung?
Yeah, they went to the doctor and then basically they burnt their lung.
From inhaling extremely hot smoke?
Were they using water filtration?
Obviously not. Really? That doesn't seem possible, does it?
I want to say the reverse of it. I don't think the bong can ever made someone stupid. It was sucking the lighter down the front of the bong, all that stuff.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Western Grinspoon agrees with you.
Joints were doing pretty good. So I would think it was the opposite. You work the butane out, you're using something to heat a nail. And I've always said it tastes like vaporizer, but with the heat. It's a vaporizer with a little bit of heat. So it reminds me of the bong hit, but it's a vaporized product. So I'd say it's the opposite.
I found that if there's any butane left in it,
it just really dries the throat.
Yes, raspy
And
immediately.
it hurts it. It almost feels like when you take a hit of some really good weed that takes your breath away, but it isn't taking your breath away.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I say
a little bit
that
of mucus away.
Burn
At least.
without the heat.
Right.
the problem with the plant wax is it does the actual wax from the plant that we don't necessarily want to smoke. It's a lung irritant, and it'll also if there's a lot of that plant wax present in your final extract, then it tends to hold on to solvent more, so it takes longer to purge it all out. So that's probably what I attribute that to.
Let me just say before I forget that no matter how hard you try, Danny, you'll never get all the flowers.
I'm gonna try.
I think there's a common perception among neophytes like myself when they talk about butane being harmful, and then I think that they confuse the butane that's used to extract versus the butane that's used to hit the nail.
As soon as you expel, as soon as you burn that butane, there's no residue left on the nail.
Does everybody agree with that? I know people have bad feelings about butane. Is that
There's different grades of
Well,
butane.
here's the deal on butane, okay? There's different degrees of contamination in butane. And you've got amateur BHO chemists using small containers of butane, buying them by the gross, 144 at a time, and doing it that way. And am I correct that all three of you would be using commercial containers of butane that come in big cylinders?
Currently, what I'm using is Newport butane. It's made in England. It's mercaptan free. Like one of the other big concerns about BHO is that mercaptans, what they use to give butane a smell. In its natural state, it's completely odorless, but they give it a smell in Korea because if a line breaks, they have to be able to tell and shut down production so they don't die. That's why they put it in there, but it can also be left behind in the final extract, and that's a big danger. I would like to use pure N-butane, but it just doesn't work as well as a mix. When they add commercially pure propane to the mix, it extracts at a higher pressure and seems to bring out a wider terp profile in your final product. So I like to use something with a little bit of propane in it, which would be Vector, 5 times refined is what a lot of people use, but that actually at one point did have a lot of mercaptans in it, so that's a problem. Newport never did, and that's why I like using them. Just for the process, it does make it go by a little faster.
See, the danger for the consumer is they go to the dispensary. In California now, Florida kids don't know this, yes, and dispensaries here can have 50 concentrates, okay? 5 of them may have been made by artists and conscientious people. The other 45, who the hell knows where they're made?
That's true, and that's something the patients have to start complaining every time they see, because you're the ones who made the rules. If you guys complain and you see something you don't like, don't be afraid to go back and tell the owner that you didn't like that, so he wouldn't buy that again.
The trouble is when we're medicating or getting high, or whatever you want to call it, sometimes we're very discerning, and sometimes we just go, I don't care.
Well, in Southern California, you can make it to the Buds and Roses dispensary.
Yes, please, come visit Buds and
When you get got high times cups, it's almost a joke. It's Buds and Roses, Buds and Roses.
Yeah.
For Buds. For
First call I'm in.
concentrates, for edibles. So obviously, those guys have got their shit together.
And I just, the High Times spends a lot of time and effort putting on those cups and all, and in this rumor-driven world and everything, they work really hard to make those cups legitimate. They have every vested interest in, as Rick said so eloquently last night, hopefully one day they'll hold the first national cannabis cup, and so they have every vested interest in maintaining the integrity of the competitions that they hold. So don't believe that anybody's buying their way in.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, when I got first place, I got a discounted entry because I was doing our DAP panel, so I spent less than anybody else in that a contest, like $500, that's it.
Well, good to know that.
I assume you spent a little bit more.
A substantial amount more.
Yeah.
Can I say one more
Yes,
thing
sir.
and I'll pipe down because
No,
I know
you're
I've
doing
been
great.
saying
Thank
a lot. But to me, and I mentioned I have touched on this. Is he still here? Mitch Earlywine?
Yeah, right.
Take a call. The elephant in the room regarding concentrates and all forms of cannabis use is called down regulation in your brain. So you guys have talked about it, and you said you can smoke 20 joints and you take one hit and get nice and high for 12 years, and I don't remember your use. The fact is, here's the fact, okay? All of us have a brain. The brain chemistry is the same for all of us, okay? The molecules and the circuitry. Now, it doesn't function exactly the same. The brain wants to maintain equilibrium. So as you give it more of anything, tequila, Percodan, anything, the brain turns off the receptors. You can only take in so much. So I maintain that any use besides that which gets you initially high is simply habit, something that you like to do. Just like eating 3 Oreo cookies satisfies your need for sugar, and you eat the whole bag. It's called down regulation.
You know, that's a great comment, sir. I agree with you. And just to be the devil's advocate on the other side for change is that a long time ago, for me that's 20 plus years ago, I said to myself, as long as you abuse no other substance besides cannabis for the rest of your life, you will be fine.
Yeah.
There's standards for you. I got a question back here. What is your question, sir?
It seems like a lot of people have concerns about butane in the extraction of the essential oils. I know the perfume industry is a supercritical extraction through CO2. Why hasn't there been a move towards that in the cannabis industry?
Oh, there is. There's people do.
I know there's some, but I still see a predominant 95% of the oils out there are.
CO2 is not as selective when it comes to extracting, and people do actually use companies, and they do actually use butane to extract aromatics from all sorts of plants for flavors and smells.
I have a follow-up to that also. In California, I know it's illegal to actually use explosive solvents, butane and stuff. Again, it seems like supercritical would be a great way for California to move to have a legal extraction.
I think it's just a matter of, the average person at home reading High Times, thinking, I can do this. They're not going to be doing CO2 extraction.
I think it's more about the concentrate itself is not good. That's why people are not really enjoying. So they're not going to buy that. So I know people that spend a lot of money buying machines to make CO2 extraction oils.
$50,000 to $250,000.
And now they're not even using it anymore.
Yeah, sometimes you go to you go to your market, and sometimes the organic tomatoes don't look, or peaches don't smell as good as the ones that are. And I buy the ones that smell like peaches. I'm not just going to buy the organic. So sometimes it's not better tasting. You got to be discriminating.
For me, to tell you the truth, it tastes horrible. It's the worst concentrate you can smoke.
It pulls out a lot of extra stuff, the CO2 does, because it's not as polar. So what you're getting is a lot of extra plant wax. Pretty much always sizzles when you hit it off of a nail. I think they could take or higher. Right now, you have to spend like $50,000 to $250,000 for the machine just to be able to do it right. And it still doesn't compare to butane, what someone could do with a can of butane, a little turkey baster, and a Pyrex plate in their backyard.
Or just go to your local arts and crafts store and buy some silk screen, and you're all set.
We're talking about all the developments the last 10 years, and I just want to ask all three of you, what's coming up in the future in the way of technological developments in this craft?
We're all going to get higher than we ever have in our life.
You're going to be able to dive in the moon.
Are there new technologies that are on the horizon? Because you're sitting here talking about $250,000 machines, and I mean, obviously there's technology that is being developed along with this craft.
The two fronts are like the reclaim systems, the systems that you just plug it right in and get the final product right out. Like that's what they're working toward with that. And the vape pens for
vape pens, huh?
Yeah. And still, there's not a really great vape pen, but the one my friends and I have found that we like the best is the Atmos Raw, and I guess they have a new version of it out right now.
Yeah, the Atmos Raw doesn't exist anymore.
The thing is, it's not even really a vaporizer, it's like an electronic pipe, because there's a little coil in there, it just heats up and combusts it, but it still works great.
This talks to what Banff was saying about convenience.
Yeah.
This is all about convenience.
Yeah.
It's about convenience not only for the consumer, because I used a vape pen while I was waiting for my luggage at the carousel in Denver Airport.
And not just that, people
Don't get more
really need the
convenient than
medicine.
that.
Some people really need this as a medicine, and they can't wait 8 hours inside a plane. They can't wait in a hotel room. You know what I mean? They really can't. And this is for those that really need, you know, in my opinion.
Then why are you using it?
I need.
I'm just Josh.
Well, the vape pens haven't been, there's no volcano yet for the vape pen, is that correct?
I'd say, yeah, that's true.
Right, but it's coming.
Eventually, yeah, it'll
Some way it's going to come.
Someone will figure it out.
Right. And those, again, convenience, another aspect of convenience, and this is how it's moved around. I mean, you can easily move, you know, the same amount, what was a pound of marijuana before is now a small box of what?
And undetectable by a guard dog.
There you go. And I think that's something. All of these things make this very.
Can a pot sniffing dog smell extract?
Who knows?
Maybe here.
I don't. They're not trained to. So
I'll tell you, a policeman can.
A policeman.
The dogs smell one of the terpenes. It's a certain terpene that's unique, and that's what they're trying to smell. So
Right. It's probably a good chance that it's removed, but we can't say for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I gotta say that I'm pretty sure I do lose a few of my terpenes when I'm purging out my final product, because I use a vacuum oven and it's about like 120 to 140 degrees.
Yeah, what we're saying is when a dog is trained as a sniffing detecting dog, they use crude cannabis and having fun. We've all seen how they're trained to do that.
Right.
So if your extracts may be devoid of the specific terpene that the dog's going to hit on.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm being kind of random. I have a lot of questions, but I'll just ask them right now. Yeah, a lot of people who use marijuana for medical purposes, I know CBD is one of the many cannabinoids that are helping out with that. Is there a way besides medically testing it to help you decide which cannabis has more like CBD and like THC? Like, is there certain strands that they just tend to carry more, a certain kind of like odor of a bud or like density of a bud that you can kind of like pull out?
It's a genetic property, and you have to test for it to really know how much is going to be in the flower.
You know, I just got a new copy of a new strain guide that just came out, and you know, we've all seen them. They're really cool, lots of really cool pictures. So maybe in years to come, as testing laboratories get more sophisticated, you know, somebody will use all that data and compile it into a compendium that involves, you know, all the terpenes and cannabinoids and cannabinols and or I don't know how many other compounds that we don't even know that we personally don't know the names of yet, that are just as important and effective. There's hundreds of them, right? And so we talk about 4 or 5. There's cannabinol, cannabidiols, cannabolic acid, tetrahydrocannabinol, maybe. You know, that's basically it. And then there's several hundred others, and we haven't begun to study the plants. So, you know, maybe it's important that, you know, we keep it in its raw form at least long enough to flesh out the genome, or if that's what the proper terminology.
Yeah, I'm involved in the business department of High Times Magazine. And I wanted to, when I had these guys on the stage, the one thing I can bring to this conversation is that dabs and oils have invigorated the business end of cannabis, in the sense that every guy who ever made a bond in the last 15 years can recast his bond and make a dab. I make a rig habit. Suddenly your head shop has nails and globes and all all the little
Isn't that just
dishes.
isn't that just the tip of the spear if we were to legalize cannabis hemp? You know, that all these industries, all these shoot-off industries would just pop up by the
Well,
hundreds
sure.
or thousands?
What I'm saying is, with each technological innovation, there's a host of peripheral things which invigorate financially what we do. It makes everything more solid from a dollars and cents.
As with each level of cultural acceptance.
As with each level, and you know, your head shop, for instance, every head shop in the country is, as oil moves across the country, the head shops can look forward to selling about 20 new items as that stuff comes along. So when we talk about whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing, and whether or not it's a healthy thing or an unhealthy thing, you got to realize, because of the convenience that you talked about, the economics I just talked about, this stuff's here to stay.
It's part of the evolution of cannabis. It just is. You can't stop evolution.
We need to establish our standards. We need to be responsible.
You know, just the fact that we're talking about this shows just what an open culture that we are. Because we're not making enemies, and I'm not shouting at Daniel, and he's not shouting at me, and we're going to go and hang out together. And, you know, like I said, we're all friends. You don't find that with other industries that are competing against each other. They find ways to knock each other down and, you know, and edge each other out. So I think, you know, it just shows our...
Yeah, part of it is just that there's not enough really, really good stuff being produced. So even in my own town, I'm friends with all the other people that are doing this, and we actually help each other out and share knowledge and try to make our final product better, because there's always going to be the time it takes to actually make the product. It's still work, you know? So there's only so much that can be made, and it's nowhere near the demand right now. Nowhere near.
That's why we've gotten so far in this culture, even with prohibition and all these strict, harsh laws, is because we share with each other through these conferences and seminars and hemp fests and all these things. We share. We go out of our way. We get in the car and we drive to someplace to go and speak and talk to people like you know, because we're different, and hopefully one day we'll be Middle America, and we'll set up our party for nomination.
But, you know, we talked about moving forward with everything we're doing. Bam, you were talking about nicotine was where you learned your craft from?
Yeah.
Is that right? And now, of course, you're on quite a high level of your game.
I learned with the best.
Can you educate? We're talking, the things that we're talking about here about the problems of bad creation. Can you educate? Is there a way for guys like you to disseminate your standards within our industry and say, well, this is how it should be done, and it's not done like this. This is the industry standard. It's not done like this. Don't accept it.
Yeah, we try to do it conventions like this, you know, at the Cubs. We try to educate people, but it's harder if the person doesn't come to you and ask you questions. There's really no way I can reach out to everyone and try to explain that.
Well, that's why you're working on a book.
Yeah.
I was going to say, can you put it in a book?
I've been working on a book for 2 years. Hopefully, finally, this in 2013 will be done. And Harold told me that he's working on a book on hash, which I was really happy to hear.
Yeah, I'm really trying to release this book by next year, and that will be a way of trying to.
Does that have a title?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I prefer doing hands-on teaching. I'm starting to get consulting gigs to show people how to do it safely and how to make good stuff, and starting to be able to travel to do that. And, you know, I just gotta say, it's a huge honor being up here, and I just thank all you old school normal guys for putting all the work you did, because life's amazing right now.
Yeah, that's really something. I don't know if you can tell me a little bit about Veganics.
Oh, Veganics. Veganics is, I just stumbled upon it a couple of years ago. I've been growing organically all my life, pretty much. And one day, a friend of mine by the name of Hippie Ray just said, hey, did you hear Canada just released a veganic line? I was like, no, I wasn't really looking for a new nutrient. I'm like, I'm not, you know, I make my own nutrients, I combine my own. He's like, oh, but they got soil. First I checked out this veganic soil, which by the way isn't available anymore. And then I started using the CannaBio line, which is still available. It's a 100% veganic nutrient. Veganic is short for vegan organic, so it starts, all the ingredients have to be organic, and then you just remove all the animal products. The main point is that I'm not really trying to say that I'm not trying to discount how good organics is. Organics is going to be it's been with us since civilization, it's going to be with us forever. It's just kind of unfortunate that in America, the agricultural industry is tied into animals, whether you like it or not, because there's animals on farms. And when you have all this waste, if you don't utilize it, then it becomes hazardous waste that you have to get rid of. So we utilize all these products and it becomes organics. The thing that I found was looking towards into the future, when people are going to be growing in small little micro gardens in their homes with their children and things like that, I immediately realized that veganics meant zero chance of contamination or crossover of any pathogens from what animals may have eaten, or especially slaughterhouse products and things like that. So it's 100% safe and non-toxic for all living things, so you don't have to worry about your pets or things like that. So, and the other thing is that when indoors, when you're growing in small containers, there's always going to be residue. By the time you finish up a harvest, residue is going to have leached out of whatever you're using. And veganic nutrients break down into nothing but complex carbohydrates. So you don't have any salt residues, extremely low salt residues, and again, there's extremely low levels of heavy metals as well, and zero chance of any contamination of pathogens of E. coli or salmonella or any of these other things that pop up in our food source. So it's just another level of, and then what I found after I began growing this was that my plants were the healthiest they'd ever been. My plant angles went from around here to around here, and they finished up greener. And then I was amazed, after smoking organic cannabis all my life, for 20-something years, that after smoking veganic cannabis, even organic cannabis seemed harsh. The stuff that had seemed sweet and clean now seems like almost like I'm smoking chemical. And I thought it was crazy, you know, I thought I was being biased, but then, I mean, as I started sharing it with other people, I got the same exact reaction from everybody else. So there's definitely something to it, and so I've been pursuing making a veganic nutrient line, and I've been retooling the book for the last couple of years to remove all the canna suggestions, because canna is a wonderful nutrient, but as soon as you get into a high yield situation, which is anything over like 1,000 watts, you have to augment with so many other products to get it to suffice, because the plant-derived nutrition is very low in NPK. And so you have to use a lot of microbes, you have to have a living root soil food web, a lot of beneficial microbes and fungi and enzymes to make every molecule of nutrition that you have 100% bioavailable, so everything is usable. And you do that through a living root soil food web. And so again, we're just nourishing the soil. It seems very close to nature. And I'm really loving it. And so is everybody else I come in contact with.
I really wish I could just see what you could do with a 600-light warehouse out in Denver or something.
So do I.
We'll talk later.
Common thread that we're talking about here, and it's all purity. You're talking about purity, and we're talking about purity. I have an odd question, might be a stupid question. I'd also be interested to hear what you have to say about it as well, which is, you know, what you guys are operating on a high level of the game. And as you pointed out, if you're smoking something from these guys, you have no doubt that you're dealing with a high level of purity. Is it possible to make a mid-level product that is safe and, like, you guys are making fine wine.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, is it possible to make a medium wine that we don't have to worry about?
You know, one time I was sitting at the desk at High Times and I got a call. It was from a reporter, the Miami Herald reporter called me and said that he wanted to know if you could grow weak pot. And I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was just pranking me. But actually he explained to me how older people, some of the older generation, cannot tolerate the high strength cannabis that we have. And basically to answer your question, it's not really, you can't do it with a technique, because then you would just be growing an inferior product or making an inferior product. It's going to start, you have to grow the proper genetics. You would have to grow a genetics that's low in THC so that you could grow it to its full healthful expression and then make the products with that, and you would have a product that had lower THC.
Okay.
Yes, no?
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, for my case, because I use different screens to make my hash, for example, the 38 bag, I can still collect a really good, high quality medication that's still partial or full melt. That's not going to be as strong as the other stuff, but it's still really good, and it's not going to be as expensive as the other stuff as well.
And it'll be pure, it'll have purity?
It's going to be very pure because of the way I made this stuff, and because of the trim, of the quality of the trim. Combining those together, you still get a really pure product. It's just not as good as the other stuff because of the size of the screen.
It takes as long? It takes as long to make that product, or would it take faster?
Well, comparing to what?
Well,
you make it at the same time.
High-end product of that.
Oh, it's all at the same time.
It's all at the same time.
It comes out different grades.
What would you think? Is there about a mid-level product?
Yeah, because not everyone knows how to take care of their trim properly in order for me to get all the characteristics I want in my final products. So they'll mix all their strains together as they grow, and they'll just get this generic hashy taste, where the material will be super old. So I'll actually keep it first and then run it, and it'll actually taste like hash. But the potency would be pretty much the same no matter what. Yeah.
So I think it comes down to breeding. You know, we're all concerned with breeding the most potent strains possible. And, you know, what you're asking is there a mid-level? And at this point, nobody's really interested in doing that.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure that they
the
will.
thing is about one of the things that we discussed here is that it becomes so potent that it's 60, 70% THC, 75% THC, that it becomes something that you need to moderate. And what was your phrase?
Down-regulate.
There you go, down-regulation.
Down-regulate.
Yeah.
Down.
You don't have to down-regulate, your brain does that.
Automatically.
And here's the thing, should grandma smoke pot?
Oh, here we go.
I don't think grandma's going to be firing up the nail.
Well,
You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
I will be when I'm a grandfather.
I fired up a nail and I'm...
Lest be prejudiced.
Oh, we just found one that does here.
There you go, yeah, and then right there.
So Rick, your question was, is there a mid-grade that's suitable for
Can we
novices
mitigate
and
the
seniors?
question?
Okay, go back,
have to
before
mix
a
it.
lot of these kids were on the scene, back in the day, and people say, oh, that pot was shitty, it was low THC. Well, let me tell you, Colombian, Panama, Red, Kona Gold, these were not mellow pot. They got us fucking high as kites.
You know what, I think now with...
It's not how much THC the plant contains. It's the cannabinoid profile.
Correct.
You need something balanced. And the growers in the race to get the most bag appeal and fling and the best advertising have bred out the other components for highest THC.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times when you smoke that, as Clint talks about in his book, it gives you such a jolt, it can produce anxiety and even paranoia.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
So as the product range expands, there will be products tested in labs that are suitable for mid-grade use.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay? It's going to have a reasonable profile. Maybe you have like 10% THC, but you've also got a great balance of CBD, and you've got a nice terpene profile in there. This is going to give you your taste and everything. These products are hybrids. Okay, they're not indicas and they're not sativas. They're like master breeders. You said it. It's about genetics.
I think the one solution, if if there's actually somebody out there that's thinking, you were speaking to them, well, I wish I could get a lower grade. Basically, I would suggest people to just use leaf. Just smoke leaf or vaporize leaf as opposed to bud, because it's going to have a lower THC content.
Right. Clint, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you what you think about the health effects of oil dabbing and all that, because you certainly are an expert on the health of marijuana.
Well, my concerns are with any residual hydrocarbon molecules, anything that's knit up in there and resides, and how clean it is. I don't, and if someone, it is in a sense a healthier way than smoking plant material, because you're not getting particulate matter, you're not getting carbon monoxide, you're not getting the benzene compounds that are carcinogenic in the levels you are from smoking whole flowers. And the concerns about loading yourself up with too much cannabinoids, I don't really think that that's a problem, because I refer back to, it's a study in rats and mice, but they dosed rats and mice orally with THC, the National Toxicology Project, and their conclusion was the more they got, the longer they lived, with a proportionate decrease in tumors.
Yeah, and that brings
so
me
you
to
can
what...
handle it. A lot of it goes to what you can handle. You don't want to pass out and have the nail.
He hit the nail. He hit the nail.
Now that you've said that, someone purposely is going to did you hear about the donut heads in Japan? No, you did. They fill their heads with saline to make it. They're going to take this nail and it's going to be a rite of passage. They're going to do it on purpose, like scarification.
Oh, wonderful. Something that this man said here was earlier. You were saying how you really believe that it's best for pain management. It's really good. That came as a revelation to me. That what we're talking about, we're talking about good process of that. This can be really good, high doses of THC for pain management and for a number of other things. That's correct, right?
Yeah, it just makes it evaporate. I've just seen it happen too many times. And you're saying you're not going to see grandma smoking dabs, once that just makes her arthritis disappear for an hour, she's going to be doing a lot of them.
But she might use it in a vape pen, maybe. She might use it with a
Right.
Grandma's not a fiend, but she's a vape.
But just to speak on the culture of it, is something we really haven't addressed right now. On Australia, we really haven't addressed the culture of the people that are just daily doing a ton of dabs. And there's even a special number for them now. It's 710. Because if you take 710 and you turn it upside down, it says oil.
710 is a new 420.
Yeah, and there's thousands of people across the country that are getting into this now because it's much smaller, much easier to hide, doesn't stink as bad. So even in
but you have to have a torch and a rig.
Yeah, and you can only get these rigs from these glass blowers, and it's gotten just thousands and thousands of people into art because of the glass blowers, because they're making these custom pieces, and after a while, you have enough custom pieces, you just want some cool shit to look at. So now the big thing among all these, younger people that are smoking oil are marbles. Marbles are super hot right now. Marbles are selling for hundreds of dollars a piece by all these custom artists, and it's pretty awesome.
Explain that.
Okay, marble size of your fist with just an amazing scene in it. That's a marble. Google what some of these people are doing now. It's pretty awesome. But you don't use it. You look at it. It's just art. They're just part of the art because they got into this glass art. Because the only way they could get pieces to smoke their oil was from glass artists. And back then, glass artists could only sell their pieces if they put a bowl in it so you could smoke out of it. So it's changing, industries like that. But there's also this small segment in the 710 scene, I'll just go ahead and call it that is into competitive smoking.
Yeah.
So, we'll have gauntlets where there'll be like 14 of these really heady, nice glass pieces, and you'll get a couple friends to like warm up the titanium pads or titanium nails, and another guy to load up dabs, and they'll just go for it. So I've seen people take over a gram at a time, in one dab, and it's not killing anybody, and they're still going to work, and they're still going to their jobs, and they're not hungover the next day.
Have you ever seen the rig with 2 nails?
Yeah.
Sounds like a Hunter Thompson novel.
You get your 2 grand in one.
He was still around, but with 2 nails.
There's a website, prankdab.com, which has assembled all of, it's kind of like Tosh 2.0 on weed. And basically these are people making fools of themselves a lot of the time, doing dabs way to excess, and prank dabbing people, putting things in there, it's not dabs, things like that, just crazy stuff. Yeah, crazy stuff. And this is all part of the culture that's emerging. This is all part of the culture that's emerging. And I'm concerned, and I have to say this is something that I want to bring it around to, I'm concerned that we know all about this, but our enemies do not yet, and those times are coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. And when they see it, and we've established here the health concerns and the health benefits and such, the optical problem is going to be really bad. It looks cracky. Yeah, you're sitting there going, yeah. And I'll tell you also, the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam last year was shut down for a couple hours, and the police came in and stuff. And it was not a very small thing, actually, but we believe the reason they came in is because they came in the day before and they saw people doing nails and butane. They didn't know what that was. And they came in and said, geez, they're doing drugs in there. And then,
see, like, it's not, see, we know that it's still a positive sharing thing, but you lose the whole communal aspect of passing the joint, when you're gathered around the tool, the rig. It's just, and so from the outside, it's a perception thing.
All you do now is heat the torch for someone else.
Right.
That's right.
Like I said, we understand, but the first time they put it on 60 Minutes or 2020, it's not going to come across that way at all.
Yeah, that's going to be the
It's
first
going to come across.
That's going to be
Using glass pieces in America is
The scourge. It's going to be the new scourge. It's going to, it's going to be ice and extract, methamphetamine and extract. It's going to be.
But really what it is, it's this ritual you do either by yourself or with your friends where you take this really expensive piece of glass art and you're able to just connect with it through smoking oil through it. And the communal part of it is, here's this great $1,000 piece of art right here that you get to smoke out of right now and try this great oil. I mean, that's awesome. Man.
That's absolute. The question is how, or not even saying that it's anybody's responsibility, but we're all sitting here trying to take some responsibility for legalization. So I might as well ask, so how do you take that practice and make it seem palatable to the layman?
I honestly don't know.
You say I honestly don't know, nor do I, but I think this is a very important question because I do believe that the criticism is coming, and I believe the public criticism is coming. This is not your father's hash. And what's going to happen, I think we should get in front of that.
Yeah.
I think we should have responsible standards that we're
harm reduction.
talking about here
Basically
today.
what Daniel said is the best point, is the fact that it is a method of harm reduction. It's indisputable. So we have to be honest from the forefront. Unlike we have with our medical cannabis initiatives and such. Making pot docs on the corner wealthy and stuff like that. And now medical marijuana is almost keeping it from being legal because it's such a contradiction. It seems such a contradiction to the outside world. So we have to get ahead of it, and we have to be honest that we are discussing that there are hazards, and that we have to be honest about it.
Yeah, I think we have to be prepared for that.
Absolutely.
Very sure.
But the laws in a lot of states already tell you what the reaction is going to be. Concentrates equals felony. Look at Texas. Look at that singer that was just busted, okay? Fiona Apple. No problem that she had her bag of weed. She had a little bag of hash. Felony equals 10 years in Texas. Okay, so the laws across the country, concentrates equals date.
Well, but how ridiculous is that? Because it's as natural as the plant. If I can just take some leaf out of my freezer and shake it like this, and I get this powder that I want to smoke from, I mean, you can hardly call it concentrating. It's just basically, I mean, technically, but that's why we need to educate and why we have these panels. And I'm really happy with the way, all the information that we've covered here and the help that we've gotten from the audience, from you and Clint as well. You know, I'm sorry that the room wasn't filled because I think this has been a really informative panel for everybody, you know. It's great.
During this entire weekend, we've talked a lot about regulated cannabis like alcohol, okay? What is regulated on distilling alcohol? The percentage of alcohol. So if you look to the future, and when they want to legalize this product, you can just expect that there's going to be a percentage of THC that's going to be allowed in the product. And I suspect it's not going to be 50 to 70%.
You brought up an interesting point. I've never thought of that because I relate it to kind of, you know, some people believe that you should be able to grow an unlimited amount of cannabis. Maybe you're right. I'm not here to say that you're not, but initially in our early stages of decriminalization, we have to make these steps where it's, you know, we have some limits.
They're trying to do
We're
the
only allowed
same
to grow a
thing.
certain amount. And by the same token, you know, as we go forward further in legalization, that seems like a very reasonable assumption that there's going to be a limit on the level that you may be able to possess or refine. I don't know why that is. I don't know why we're going to head that way, but it does seem logical.
But not really. You have to think about it. You know, if that happens, they're trying to do the same thing in Amsterdam. And that's going to take everyone's freedom away.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I didn't say it was right.
Because if that happens, only McDonald's and Burger King are going to be able to grow weed because they're going to have the money to buy equipment that are going to test how their weed is going to be. You and me are not going to be free enough to do that because you're not going to have that cash. So I think the thing is, weed is a plan. We need to talk about it. We need to study about it. You know what I mean? It's a huge mistake when we think about it as a drug. And they say weed is a drug that gives you the
gateway drug.
Gateway drug. You know, the reason why weed is a gateway drug is because people call weed a drug for years and years. And kids are going to smoke that, think they're going to get high. And they're not really going to get as high as they think. So that's why they go to other drugs. They go to the real drugs. And what's missing here, we have to talk about this and share with other people so we don't have this mistake. Weed is a plant. We have to grow it. We have to be free to be able to grow it. And we have to be smart to know what our body can handle. That's what I really think.
Okay, anybody got any questions? Because I'm going to wind it down. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. You did.
Just one question. My cousin is talking about like becoming someone who grows. He wants to like eventually move out to like Colorado, have like a big field unit, do his thing there. So I'm totally not a family member that does that. But I feel like I wouldn't be an asshole if I didn't ask you guys how you got into the business, so I can like tell.
I walked into a tie-dye store in New Paltz, New York one day and smoked a joint with the proprietor, and he said to me, dude, he said, I know somebody that works in High Times. That's not me. Sharing, so it was sharing, see, because I was sharing, I got it.
I was a literature major in college, and I really wanted to be a writer. I felt like my life wasn't that exciting yet, and I became a drug dealer. You know, I like to think I was the guy with, that, gave you the good deal, that, really was caring about my product, basically running a dispensary out of my apartment anyway. And then things just went legal all around me. And I got into it, and I got to meet some really incredible hash makers. And at the time I was living out here, so I couldn't afford a house, I lived in an apartment. But I did vend their products to a lot of dispensaries, and to the ones I ran myself. Became kind of famous for having concentrates in the scene, And I got a consulting gig in Colorado, and went out there for a couple of weeks when they were just opening and setting stuff up and got their shop in order. And came back here, got more into concentrates, and I was like, I gotta go to Colorado. Because it's kind of brutal out here, you know?
You should just go into Colorado, or like obviously a state that's more lenient.
Colorado is the state to be. It is the mecca of medical marijuana, or just, you know, consumer marijuana.
I don't agree with that.
Bro,
Cali is the place for sure.
12
Always been and will always be the best weed in the whole world. I lived 5 years in Amsterdam. I went to every place in the world where you can get weed. And this is where the real growers are, the real extract artists are.
Only one state has the Emerald Triangle.
I can't.
Everyone knows the Emerald Triangle. Humboldt, Trinity, and Mendocino.
I was from LA.
Organic, outdoor, Humboldt.
That's right. That's right.
We were doing so civilly.
Then they throw the cream away.
First of all, I'm from here. I love the weed in California. It does grow better outside out here than it does out there. But in the end, we're going to pass up California because we have the regulation in place. We have saner laws as part of our constitution. Our places are regulated, and like we're learning stuff all the time how to make our stuff better. And yeah, things are just taking off. But I agree. Like 2 years ago, I was really depressed for months because I could not get good OG Kush. I was really depressed about that. So
It's all-
I can't.
it's all
It never
here.
costs half what it does here out there in Colorado.
I'm going to take one more question, then we're going to wrap it up. I know you got it. Right back there. What do you got?
I was just going to make a statement in terms of perception being reality and how to keep the perception of the smooth concentrates at the level of like amphetamines. I think we need more grandmas out there telling people how it's helping them.
I think we should run one for president. A dabbing grandma for president. We don't vote for her, right?
We gotta educate our kids as well in the right way because they're the future. They're the ones who are gonna be smoking in the malls and in the hotels. So we gotta educate them that it's not a drug. It's a plant that God gave us. It's only a plant. That's it. Be responsible. Don't do anything stupid. It's all good.
That's right.
And there is one more question right here. What is it, sir?
What is safer, hash or hash, like concentrate, like hash oils?
Hash is just a general term for any kind of extract from cannabis. Hash oil is just one particular form. It could come in, and you could have several things making the hash oil. Yeah. CO2 could be oil, BHO could be oil. I think there's even like a centrifuge oil that they make out here, the pure gold stuff. Have you guys seen that? Yeah.
I saw something.
It's just this golden oil. It doesn't really have a flavor. It's super pure, super ready.
Pure Labs?
It's called 24 karat gold or something.
Yeah, the Pure Lab Traveler Labs.
Yeah.
My mouth's starting to
They
water.
use it. But I test those, and that's not true. Test those in labs. I have the results, and they're really not true.
What results are not true?
From the
It
concepts
says
they
like
started
99% pure.
You know, like 15% THC.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah, there's also people selling seeds online that say you're going to grow 33% THC weed.
Yeah. That's online, right?
Yeah.
You have to believe everything online.
Right.
All right, I'm going to wind this up. I think this has been really successful, really informative. I certainly learned a lot. And I'd like to thank all three of our absolute artistic, the future. I really believe, we're heading this way. I believe that everything I said about the economics and the cultural tsunami that's going through, I think that is, whether we like it or not, however it's been, I think it's coming across the country. And I think that these gentlemen on the stage it's their responsibility to show what the standard is, if not teach it. And I'm looking forward to your book. And I'm looking forward to your nutrients. You guys do something. This man here has a radio show, is that right?
Yeah, I'm doing something called IDAB Radio. iCannabisradio.com. It's a very niche show, but everybody's like trying to make their own hash and has that as a hobby and listen to them. So check us out, iCannabisradio.com.
My Dad Radio.
IDAB.
Thank you for coming. If you have any other questions, I'm sure here's the conference.
This concludes day 2 of the normal conference.